My wife cheated, got pregnant by her affair partner, and shattered my trust in our marriage. She ruined everything. Hey Reddit. This is not an easy story to tell, but I feel like I need to get it off my chest. It's been eating me alive for months now, and no matter how much I try to move forward, the memories keep pulling me back. I met my wife, Anna, 8 years ago. She was smart, funny, and the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. We clicked instantly. We got married 3 years later in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. Our life seemed picture perfect. We bought a house, adopted a dog, and talked endlessly about our future kids, traveling the world, and growing old together. I thought we were on the same page, but I was dead wrong. A little over a year ago, I started noticing subtle changes in Anna's behavior. She became distant, spent more time on her phone, and began working late more frequently. At first, I thought she was just stressed. Her job had always been demanding, and I wanted to be supportive. I cooked dinners, did more around the house, and tried to give her space to decompress. But no matter what I did, the distance between us grew. One night, she came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked her about it, she laughed it off, saying she had hugged a coworker at a celebration. I wanted to believe her so badly that I ignored the pit in my stomach. Looking back, I realized that was the moment I should have trusted my gut. A month later, things took a turn for the worse. Anna started being overly protective of her phone, always keeping it face down or carrying it everywhere. She also began dressing up more than usual for work. Suspicion gnawed at me, but I didn't want to accuse her without proof. Instead, I buried my doubts and told myself I was being paranoid. After all, we were married. She loved me. Or so thought. Then, one day, I found the proof I had been dreading. Anna accidentally left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. I didn't want to snoop, but something inside me said I needed to know. I opened her messages, and there it was, a thread of texts between her and a man named Brian. The messages weren't just flirtatious, they were explicit. My heart sank as I scrolled through weeks of conversations. They talked about how much they missed each other, how they couldn't wait for their next meeting, and worst of all, how they had been together in our bed while I was away on a business trip. I felt sick. My hands shook as I put the phone back. When Anna came out of the shower, I confronted her. At first, she denied everything, calling me crazy and insecure. But when I told her I had seen the messages, she broke down and admitted to the affair. She said it was a mistake, that she loved me, and that it didn't mean anything. I wanted to believe her, but the betrayal was too deep. We decided to try counseling. I wasn't ready to give up on our marriage, and she swore she wanted to make things right. For a while, it seemed like we were making progress. She cut off contact with Brian and promised to be more transparent. I wanted so desperately to trust her again, but the scars of her betrayal didn't fade easily. A few months later, Anna dropped another bombshell: she was pregnant. At first, I was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. Part of me was excited about the possibility of becoming a father, but another part of me was terrified. Given everything that had happened, I couldn't shake the doubt that the baby might not be mine. When I brought up the possibility, Anna got defensive and insisted that the baby was mine. She accused me of not trusting her, and for a moment, I felt guilty. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I needed to let go of the past and focus on our future. But the nagging doubt wouldn't go away. I suggested a paternity test, which led to another massive argument. Anna eventually agreed, but her hesitation only fueled my suspicions. When the results came back, my worst fears were confirmed: the baby wasn't mine. It was Brian's. I can't even begin to describe the pain I felt in that moment. It was like my entire world came crashing down. Anna begged me to forgive her, saying she wanted us to raise the baby together, but I couldn't do it. She had lied to me, cheated on me, and now she was asking me to raise another man's child as my own. It was too much. I filed for divorce shortly after. The process was messy and emotionally draining. Anna tried to convince me to reconsider, saying she would do anything to fix things, but I was done. The trust was gone, and so was the love I once felt for her. I couldn't look at her without being reminded of the betrayal. Even after the divorce was finalized, the pain didn't go away. I had to sell the house we had bought together because living there was too painful. I moved into a small apartment, and for a while, I avoided socializing altogether. The loneliness was crushing, but it was better than pretending everything was okay. As for Anna, she ended up moving in with Brian. I don't know if they're still together, and honestly, I don't care. I've cut all ties with her and blocked her on every platform. The only connection we still have is the occasional email about the divorce paperwork or loose ends from our shared finances. It's been 6 months since the divorce, and I'm slowly starting to rebuild my life. I've started therapy, which has helped me process everything. I've also reconnected with friends and family who have been incredibly supportive. It's not easy, but I'm learning to focus on myself and what makes me happy. Trust is something I struggle with now. The idea of dating again feels impossible because I can't imagine opening myself up to someone else. The fear of being hurt like that again is paralyzing. But I'm hopeful that, with time, I'll heal. Looking back, I realize there were red flags I ignored because I didn't want to believe the woman I loved could hurt me so deeply. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's to trust my instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I'm determined to move forward. I won't let Anna's actions define me or my happiness. It's a long road ahead, but I'm taking it one day at a time. Update. It's been about 3 months since I first shared my story, and I wanted to provide an update. Life after the divorce has been challenging, to say the least. Every day feels like a battle between wanting to move forward and being dragged down by memories of what happened. The trust issues that Anna left me with have seeped into every part of my life. I'm trying to work through them in therapy, but it's a slow process. After selling the house, I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It's not much, but it's mine. No shared memories, no lingering ghosts of what could have been. I've been focusing on making it a place where I feel safe and comfortable. Decorating it has been oddly therapeutic. It feels good to create a space that's just for me. I've also adopted a cat, something I always wanted but never did because Anna didn't like cats. I named him Milo, and he's been a great companion during this lonely time. Work has been my saving grace. Throwing myself into projects has helped keep my mind occupied. My boss and coworkers have been supportive, even though they don't know all the details. A few of them noticed I wasn't myself for a while, but I've been careful to keep my personal life separate from work. Still, it feels good to have a sense of normalcy in at least one part of my life. As for Anna, I've done everything I can to cut her out of my life. I blocked her on social media and only communicate with her via email when absolutely necessary. She tried reaching out a couple of times after the divorce was finalized, but I made it clear I had nothing more to say. Last I heard, she's still with Brian, but I don't want or need to know more. I've come to realize that holding on to anger and resentment only hurts me in the long run, so I'm working on letting it go. It's not easy, but I'm getting there. I've also started reconnecting with old friends and making new ones. At first, it was hard to put myself out there again. I felt like I had a giant sign on my forehead that said damaged goods. But the more I opened up, the more I realized that people genuinely care and want to help. One of my friends even set me up on a blind date, though I wasn't ready for that yet. Dating feels like a distant possibility right now. I'm not sure when or if I'll ever be ready to trust someone like that again. For now, I'm focusing on myself. I've taken up running and joined a local gym, which has been a great outlet for stress. I'm also reading more, something I used to love but had let slip away over the years. It feels good to rediscover parts of myself that I had neglected. Another update. 6 months have passed since my divorce, and just when I thought I was making progress, life decided to throw me a curveball. A couple of weeks ago, I ran into Anna and Brian at a coffee shop near my apartment. Of all the places and all the times, it had to be there. I was in line, minding my own business, when I heard Anna's voice behind me. My stomach dropped. I turned around, and there they were, standing together. She looked surprised to see me, and Brian looked uncomfortable. I can't say I handled the situation gracefully. I froze for a moment before giving a curt nod and turning back to the counter. The last thing I wanted was a confrontation. But, of course, Anna decided to approach me. She said she wanted to talk, that she missed me and regretted everything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Missed me? Regretted everything? She was standing there with the man she cheated on me with, the father of her child, and she thought now was the time for this conversation? I told her I had nothing to say to her and asked her to leave me alone. Brian didn't say a word, just stood there looking uncomfortable. Part of me wanted to yell, to make a scene, but I knew that wouldn't accomplish anything. Instead, I grabbed my coffee and left. My hands were shaking the entire time. That encounter set me back more than I expected. Seeing Anna again brought back all the pain and anger I've been trying to move past. My therapist says it's normal to have setbacks, but it's still frustrating. I've been doing everything I can to move on, and yet, one random encounter was enough to unravel weeks of progress. I've been avoiding that coffee shop ever since. It might seem silly, but I don't want to risk running into them again. The city is big enough that I shouldn't have to. I've also doubled down on my efforts to focus on myself. I've started taking weekend trips to explore new places and clear my head. Being out in nature has been incredibly healing. It reminds me that there's a world beyond the pain I've been carrying. Despite the setback, I'm still determined to move forward. I refuse to let Anna and Brian have any more power over my life. They've taken enough from me already. Final update. It's been a year since my world fell apart, and I can finally say that I'm in a better place. The road to get here wasn't easy, but I've learned so much about myself along the way. I've fully embraced my independence. My apartment feels like home now, and I've made new friends who have become like family to me. Milo, my cat, continues to be a source of joy and comfort. It's amazing how much love and companionship a little animal can bring. Therapy has been a game changer. I've worked through so many of the trust issues and self-doubts that Anna left me with. For a long time, I blamed myself for what happened, wondering if I could have done something differently to save our marriage. But I've come to realize that her actions were a reflection of her choices, not mine. I did everything I could, and that's enough. Recently, I've started dating again. It's been a slow process, but I've met someone who is kind, understanding, and patient. She knows about my past and has been nothing but supportive. It's too early to say where things will go, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. I'm learning to trust again, one step at a time. As for Anna, I haven't heard from her since that coffee shop encounter, and I prefer it that way. I've let go of the anger and resentment I once felt. Holding on to those emotions only weighed me down, and I refuse to let her have that power over me anymore. I hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for, but her journey is no longer my concern. One of the biggest lessons I've learned through all of this is the importance of self-worth. For years, I put Anna's happiness above my own, thinking that was what love meant. But love shouldn't come at the expense of your own well-being. I've learned to prioritize myself, to set boundaries, and to recognize when a relationship isn't healthy. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine, and I'm finally at peace with that. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm excited to find out. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm truly living, not just surviving. And that, more than anything, is what I needed.